Mike Pate, April 28th, 2008. Hello, Mike. Hey, this is Vicki Hoggett. How are you doing? I need to get some information from you, if I could. I need to know what was the nature of the discussion between your dad and you and Bobby Mooneyham at the bank as far as letting the house go into foreclosure. Just a second. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, if you'd like, because, yesterday was the first time I'd read anything that you've sent across to Henry like that, and I think things are getting way misconstrued out here big time. If you'd like to, I'd be happy to talk to Eric on anything, but other than that, I think y'all are going to have to iron some things out here that's not correct at all. So I'll be happy to talk to Eric on some items if you'd like for me to. But other than that, I'm going to just back off this because I'm not familiar with 90% of it. But anyway.
Well, see, the only question I needed to ask you, and it's a business dealing. That's why I called you. It's not a social call or anything. It's a business, and you're the only person who knows what contact and discussion you've had with Bobby Mooneyham at the bank and your dad prior to foreclosure. So it would only be you. And so that's why I want to know.
Okay. With Daddy now, I was just honest, told him we couldn't keep going, the way we're going. With Bobby, I didn't actually speak with him until, right there at the very end because it was embarrassing enough for me. I've known him since, I could sit on his knee. So, honestly, I didn't speak with Bobby Mooneyham until he told me it was already in the paper. And with my father, that I couldn't afford it anymore. So, I'm tucking my head every time I walk in the banks around here. So, I don't have any conversation with them on that area. We didn't discuss that it was going to go into foreclosure and things.
Mm-hmm. But Bobby Mooneyham knew that there was at least a purchase option agreement. So
I have no idea.
You don't know if he knew that?
No, I do not.
Okie doke. Because way back in February of 2006, your wife said that she had talked to him a long time ago concerning our agreement.
Oh, well, I know that she's made every effort to let him know that y'all were trying to buy the house. It's went on for several years now. And we just, that I do know, yeah. She sent him the emails that you had sent her and everything. Yes, I do know that.
Okay.
But now, did he know that you had an option? I don't know. But again, let me go through any of these items that you'd like with Eric. I'll be happy to. But other than that, I'm not just going to go answering a lot of questions right at this time. I think things went way out of control in this area here.
Yeah, well, I agree. Why, Mike, did the day that you were out there on that Monday working on the pool, why didn't you tell me that you knew the house was about to be sold to your dad?
Did you not just hear me?
I did hear you, but I would still like an answer because, if you not only...
Did answer you, okay? That's all that I've got to say.
All righty.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Bye. That was Mike Pate, May 29th, 2008, confirming that he had spoken with Bobby Mooneyham, and the emails confirm what Bobby Mooneyham knew. So Mike Pate knew when he signed a lease to purchase option agreement with owner financing, that he was doing so fraudulently. I think that he had about 3 outstanding, maybe 4 loans for the neighborhood of $200,000. Some of them secured by Bancorp South. Bancorp South loaned money to his, all of them were like 4 and 6 months notes. So he was sure when he signed that lease to purchase option agreement that he wasn't going to honor it. It was fraudulently intended from the beginning, but they thought that once we had that option, that he could force the purchaser to get third-party financing by threatening bankruptcy and sale to third parties and foreclosure, and but he knew the rights and obligations under the contract and that he could never do it. But what they did was for 3 years allowed the would-be purchaser to pay for that house while they loaded it with debt and lived on it until it was to $209,000 when they reached an agreement with the bank to assist him to defraud the purchasers by foreclosing it to a bona fide purchaser for value, Mike Pate's father, while Mike Pate was living in his father's house, even though he owns another house, Mike Pate does, and of course Bobby Pate does too. Okay. Hello, is this Bobby Pate?
This is Pate. That's one of them.
Hey, this is Vicki Hoggett. I was calling you to find out what's going on with the house. I know it was sold at foreclosure to you, and we had sent the April rent to Kim and Mike, and we need to find out what's going on.
Well, I mean, I don't know what you need to know. I mean, they auctioned the house off, and I was up there. I was the only one bidded on it. We figured, y'all and several more bidded on it, but there wasn't nobody up there, so,
Why did you figure we would bid on it?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know. I have no idea about, what y'all's deal was on the house or nothing.
You didn't know that we had a lease with an option to purchase that had been executed?
They ain't told me nothing. All I know is the bank.
I buy houses, and I just got through buying another big house there in Pontotoc from First National. They did that. So, ma'am, I don't know what to tell you unless you get a hold of the lawyer that handled it.
Yeah. Well, no, I know it was foreclosed. What do you intend to do with the property?
Sell it.
Uh-huh. Well, the reason I'm asking, we're supposed to meet with Kim tonight, and it's not only unethical to have a recorded option to purchase at owner financing. You never heard a word about that they agreed to owner finance the house and apply $600 a month of the rent to purchase price. You never heard anything about that?
No, that's something you'll have to take up with him. I don't know nothing about it, so I can't tell you nothing because I don't know nothing.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, as you know, we're living there. Kim said that she did not cash the rent check. When we sent it, we didn't know the house was going to be sold at foreclosure. They just so that you do know some things, we sent them $800 a month for the last 3 years, $600 of which per month was to be applied toward the purchase price.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was paying on that.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, I will need a key to it.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly welcome to that. You're the owner. Do you want to lease the house to us or rent it or what?
Well, I don't know. I ain't gonna say I don't. I hadn't had time to think. I've been so busy, and I got someone here in the office now meeting with them, but I just had to give me time to think about it. Can you hold on just 1 second?
Sure.
Let me ask. Hello. Yeah, I just wondered if was you up there to have loaded and everything. Junior here, he's fixing to come on up there. Oh, that's what we want to know. Okay. Yeah, that's that. All right, I'm sorry I had to put you on here, but we closed on Thursday, and I've been busier today than I ever have.
Yeah. The reason that I was thinking that maybe the foreclosure sale was not a bona fide purchaser for value was the fact that Kim told me in the last year that come April, and this is April, that she was either going to be living in the house at 116 Main Street or she was going to be living in that log house. And they sold the house on Main Street, is that right?
That I don't know. Ma'am, I don't keep up with their business. I can't handle my own. So now what they did, you talking about Main Street, now where is that? Is that the highway going through town?
Uh-huh, right there, a block from the courthouse where they were living at one time.
If they have, I don't know nothing about it. Now, I ain't saying they did, and I don't know.
Okay. Well, I thought they had moved from it and moved into a house that you owned over there.
The house they're living in right now is one I own.
The one on Main Street?
No. It's out in about 3 miles out of town.
The one on 9 in that subdivision?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have an address for that? Because I need to send Kim a registered letter.
No, it's right off. I don't. I'll have to find out and call you because I don't know right off.
Okay, because I know that she told me to continue sending the rent checks there, but I was under the impression that they had sold that house and that's why they were living in a house owned by you.
No, one they're living in right now is one that I own.
But you don't think they've sold the Main Street house?
I don't know. That's what I say. I don't really know.
But you do know why they started living in your house, don't you?
Well, they've been in it for, I don't know, for about a year or more.
Right. That's why I thought they had sold the Main Street house.
Yeah, like I say, I don't keep up with their business, and I don't even know what's going on, to be honest with you.
Uh-huh. How did you find out the house was about to be foreclosed on?
I read it in the paper.
But the Mike and Kim did not tell you?
They ain't mentioned nothing to me, no.
You just happen to be reading the Pontotoc paper? You don't even live in Pontotoc, do you? You don't even live in Pontotoc, do you?
Well, no, I don't live there, but like I say, I've bought several houses over the years in Pontotoc, and I watch, see what's going on.
Uh-huh. So you just...
what ain't for sale.
Uh-huh. So you just pick up a Pontotoc paper and you happen to notice their house was for sale, and within 3 weeks happened to buy it in at foreclosure.
Well, I I just noticed it's for sale. That's a, what else can, I don't know what else to tell you.
Uh-huh. Well, I was just wondering, if I saw my child's house for sale at foreclosure, I would probably ask them why that was. And it would be good to know because there were junior lieners. There were people that were cut out $30,000 they'd paid under that contract with Mike Pate, which is a legally enforceable contract. And so
you'll probably have to take that up with the bank now. I don't have nothing to do with that. Now, whatever y'all, that's what I say. You have to talk to the banker about that. I don't know.
Okay, but the bank didn't let you know that it was for sale.
They didn't let me know.
And
no,
Mike
they didn't let me. I called them after I read it in the paper.
Uh-huh. And Mike and Kim never mentioned it to you? You've never talked to them about it?
I hadn't talked to them about it, no ma'am. Like I say, I'm hardly ever up there. I stay busy down here, and I don't have time to think hardly sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kim told me that that you had known that they were in a financial bind and could not go on like that.
I know that because I'd loaned them money.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't mean to make you angry. Let me go ahead and hang up. I just wanted to check with you, and there will most probably be a lawsuit against the bank. So since you were involved in the situation, we most probably will need to meet with you when it's convenient. And if you can think about a time that you might be in Pontotoc soon.
Like I say, that's between you and the bank now.
Yeah, but the bank's knowledge as far as what they knew, and it's a felony to receive money under false pretenses. Like if he knew that he could not own or finance the house, which now they say they knew all along, and then received $30,000, 3/4 of which was to be applied toward a purchase price, and that was in a recorded option, and then that will have to be found out who knew what about what. I know the bank knew about it. So that's why I was asking you if the bank said anything to you, because even though you have done a great deal of business with the bank, it's still, that's another crime called misprision of felony, if you knew that your son had done something that was criminal and fraudulent and then assisted that. So anyway, there have been criminal charges filed against Mike.
Okay.
So I just wanted to let you know that. And please think of a time that you can meet with Eric and I, because that's the first step in Matthew 18 about resolution of business dealings with Christians before it's taken to the congregation.
Right, okay.
So do you think you'll be able to meet with us sometime during the next week?
You just have to let me know. I don't.
Okay. Well, if we don't get a talk again, how about not this Sunday but the next Sunday?
Okay. Like I say, I got a client been waiting on me and waiting on me.
Okay.
Really caught me at a bad time.
Okay. Well, let me let you go then.
All right.
Okay. Goodbye. Bobby Mooneyham, May 5th, 2008. May 6th.
Bancorp, that's Kelly. May I help you?
Hi, may I speak to Bobby Mooneyham, please?
Okay.
May 6th, 2008. Bobby Mooneyham.
Bob Mooneyham.
Hi, is this Mr. Mooneyham?
Yes.
Hi, this is Vicki Hoggett. I need to let you know I don't think you have a valid foreclosure on the.
Well, you just need to talk to our legal department then on that.
Okay.
I'll talk with Mr. Fox and him on it.
Okay. Is Mr. Fox represent you or the bank, or does he represent Bobby Pate?
He represented the bank in the foreclosure. His daughter did.
Okay, because Bobby Pate says that you called him and said that he needed to have the lawyer write a letter of eviction.
Right, I told him, he asked me about, did I write a letter? Did I write a letter? And I told him no. I told him he'd need to have Mr. Fox write it.
Okay. Was that you who came to the house that weekend and talked to our daughter and said call the bank?
Yes.
Okay.
I came up to the house after the foreclosure.
Okay. And you probably have heard that we filed criminal charges against Mike Pate. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't, but you need to discuss it with the legal department, our legal counsel.
Okay. Well, the reason I need to discuss it with you is I'm a lawyer, as you know, and I have served as a special prosecutor before, and they asked me if I would like to present it to the group. Go ahead.
And if you're a lawyer, which I've heard that you were, then that you need to talk to our legal counsel on it.
Well, now that's the civil part of it. But to present it to the grand jury for a criminal indictment, I need to find out who the witnesses would be. So then I would need to talk to you to find out would you be willing to serve as a witness to tell who knew what when. Because, as you know, Bobby Pate is not a bona fide purchaser for value without notice.
Yes, he is.
He is. Well, not on the face of the substituted trustee's deed. Both of those notes that say they were foreclosed are after our lease to purchase option agreement was optioned. I mean, it was filed that we had exercised the option prior to either one of those.
Yes, but on the thing, but your option was filed after our deed and trust was filed.
Not the ones that are on the face of the foreclosure.
Yes, those were renewals and extensions of previous deeds and trusts.
One of them was a revolving line of credit, which I think would change that picture, wouldn't it?
Well, no, it wouldn't, because we have an additional advance clause in our trust deed.
Okay. I was of the impression that if the advances were obligatory under the note and trust deed, that they stayed there, but if they were just additional after other legal
it says at the option of the lien holder, the additional advances. It's called a dragnet clause. It's in there.
Right, the dragnet clause is in there. But the point, that still doesn't make him a bona fide purchaser for value without notice.
He was a bona fide purchaser for value because it was done at the courthouse and in open court. Anyone could have come up and bid on it.
Right, but he was not without notice. That's what a bona fide purchaser for value without notice is.
I mean, as I told you, you need to discuss it with Mr. Fox on it.
Okay, can you come to the grand jury?
Can I come without a subpoena? I can't.
Okay, well, what is your address to subpoena you, please?
All right. Bobby Mooneyham, Bancorp South Bank, P.O. Box 112, Houston, Mississippi.
Okay, they'll need a physical address to serve a subpoena.
115 Washington Street.
Okay. Mr. Fox will not know the answer to this question, which I will have to ask you at the grand jury, about when did you see the lease purchase option agreement?
I saw the lease purchase agreement when I got your letter regarding it.
Way back in 2006?
No, when you never sent me one. You sent me I got a copy. Mr. Fox had gotten a letter from you here about, let's see, your letter is dated, well, it was a fax, really. It was from the Dan Davis Law Office, phone number 662-840-8900. You faxed it to Mr. Fox, and he brought me a copy of it.
You'd never seen the lease
No.
purchase option agreement for that? Because I know your deed of trust requires that not that you sign off on it, but that they give you a copy of that. You knew the house was being leased, right?
No, I did not know the house was being leased. I knew they had a renter.
Well, that's the same thing as a lease.
Oh, ma'am, but it's not.
Well, anyway, they did. So, well, your deed of trust requires that those things be approved of or looked at or sent to the bank. So I'm just wondering why you...
And you never sent it to me or anything.
No, it's not my obligation. I was not doing business with you. I was doing business with the Pates.
That's correct, Ms. Hodney.
Right. So the obligation is not mine. It is theirs.
I don't know what her obligation is between you, because under the deed of trust, on our deed of trust, on the thing, it can't be on it. I think it's a due and sale clause on it.
At the option of the bank.
At the option of the bank.
Right. They don't have to exercise it, but that is why they should.
That note was not even a
this.
month. It was a note that came due, I believe, once every 6 months or so.
Okay.
On it, and then
there's also a requirement in the deed of trust that if something happens, that any rents received would be paid to the bank, but I know that they were not. I know they were converted to the Patterson. Yeah. So I suppose, well, you said you need a subpoena, but can you tell me when they quit paying on the house? Because Kim Pate told me that every month she took $800 down to the bank.
I can't tell you that on the thing. If you get the, I'll be glad to have it looked up and look on the thing and give an answer in the court.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
What we do, we get into a thing, the Privacy Act, and I'm not allowed to discuss it with you because you and I don't have a customer relationship.
Right, but you do have knowledge of criminal activity. You know for certainty that it's against the law to sell or agree to sell property without fully disclosing a prior lien. I'm sure you know that as a bank officer. And you also know that it's against the law to aid and abet someone who has defrauded somebody in that way. So, all right.
That's great. If you want me to testify, you'll need to get a subpoena, and I will be glad to testify on it.
Okay, fine. All right, we'll be in touch.
All right, bye.
Bye. Hi, is this Elizabeth Osborne?
Yes.
Hey, this is Victoria Hagen. I'm in Tupelo, and an eviction notice in behalf of Bobby Pate, dated April 23rd, 2008.
Yes, ma'am.
I think we have a serious problem with the trustee sale. I don't do a...
Yeah, I represent Bank Corp South, and their first, whatever they had with the, it's not Pate, is it? It's Pate, right?
Right.
The Pate who actually did that on the side to your clients, is that right?
Right.
Well, that wouldn't prohibit Bank Corp South from go ahead and foreclosing on the deed of trust if they defaulted.
Right, if they had foreclosed on the senior lien, but they did not. They closed on junior liens, which would leave the lien in place.
No, the junior lien would include the senior because it was extension and renewal, if I remember correctly.
Okie doke. Is Tina Scott there? I need to know who paid the taxes on the 15th and on behalf of whom?
Who paid taxes? Oh, I work with Tina, and what's that got to do with?
Because the bank knew, they had actual notice. There was collusion between Mike Pate and his father and Bobby Mooneyham that the Pates fraudulently executed the lease to purchase option agreement. Mike Pate did, and then he continued to borrow money. He never could have owner financed it like he agreed to do, but he didn't even have the first deed of trust. The entire amount that he had borrowed against the house was due in 4 months. He couldn't have even said, "I know I'll own this." For the entire option period, which was 1 year. But beyond that, he did never have the intent or capability of owner financing it. And so they put all sorts of pressure.
Are you going to file a lawsuit against Bancorp South on behalf of them? Is that what you're planning on doing? If you need, or if you want to fax something with an outline of that, we'll be glad to look at it and give it to the bank.
Okay. I know from certain written communication between the parties that Bobby Mooneyham had not only constructive knowledge in the land records, but he also had actual knowledge of their scheme to have this lease with option to purchase agreement. That he knew about that and then assisted. It was Mike Pate's father who bought it in at foreclosure. And Mike Pate's wife is a realtor with Crylike Realty. So they knew, the bank, the Pates, and the father all knew that she could not put it on the market, and that's why they didn't. The house is worth...
This is your client?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, what's their... Do they want to buy it or what?
No, the Pates gave the option agreement because they knew that the people could not obtain third-party financing because of their precarious financial situation, and they also knew that they had been offered another home with owner financing, and so that's why the Pates went ahead and said, "Oh, we can owner finance," when they were asked, because the agent for the other person that was going to owner finance the house came and actually looked at that house to see if they wanted to purchase it so that they could then owner finance that to the purchasers, but they did not. And so that's when Mike Pate said that he could owner finance the house, when I think at the time, and Bancorp South knew this, they had outstanding indebtedness that was all due within 4 or 6 months in the neighborhood of, I think, $600,000. I don't know because I can't look at the notes. I'm not privy to those. I just can see the deeds of trust and the lands records. So both Bobby Mooneyham and the Pates always knew that that was a fraudulent agreement, just to induce the purchasers to sign it and to begin paying money, which they did, $29,000 on that agreement.
Let me ask you this. The lease purchase, did Bancorp South sign off on that?
No, they did not. And I know the deed of trust requires that their...
consent and knowledge, but they would have to consent to that, I would think.
One would think so, yes. And also the other thing is that Mike Pate received rents for months from the purchasers and intentionally defrauded them as to the fact that this house was now in foreclosure. They took those rents and just converted them to their own use, and told the bank to go ahead and foreclose on it, and were defrauding the people right up to the last minute, pretending that everything was fine, and telling them how to who they needed to go to talk about getting the pool fixed, and saying they were going to replace a faucet, knowing that in 4 days Pops was going to buy it in at foreclosure, and to try and get rid of that lien. So it's as you know, I do know this for sure, that it's a felony to sell or encumber real property without fully disclosing a prior lien. So either if the bank had knowledge of it, then they were in collusion with Mike Pate and his father's deal there. If they did not have knowledge of it, then it was a felony toward the bank when he did not disclose the prior lien to them. But I know he did, because I've got emails from the parties saying that, you know, Bobby Mooneyham knew all about it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yes, I think that.
If you want to take us a letter to that, I'll be glad to take it to Bancorp South and see where we go from there. Or, I mean, sounds like you pretty much made your mind up. You'll sue Pate and the bank. So, but, you know, if you want to do that.
Okay. I need to talk to Tina Scott to find out what the bank told her, to find out where the division is, if the trustee was in on it also. But whoever paid the taxes on the 15th, according to the special deed from the trustee, you know, they said we don't know. We think title's good, but we don't know. And so they were under no obligation to pay any other taxes. I do know that Bobby Mooneyham called Mike Pate's father after the foreclosure and said, you know, send this letter, the one that you sent me. So there you have it. Okay, so all right. Well, but I need to talk to Tina Scott and find out what she isn't. Okay. Can you give her my phone number, please? Or would it be better for me to call her back? Will she be back in the office today?
She's still in court in Pontotoc. I doubt it.
Okay. All right. Well, I might just have to call her back Monday, but that's what I need to know. And that's what I'm trying to evaluate now, is who knew what when. And I know who knew what at some point in time.
Where are you from now?
We raised our family in Oxford. I'm leasing space from Dan Davis, one of the city judges here in Tupelo. My husband.
Yeah, I know Dan. My brother used to be a city judge.
Oh, okay. Who was your brother?
Grant Fox.
Oh, okay. All right.
And what is your last name?
Victoria Hoggett.
Okay. Are you the party of the...
We are the very ones.
Oh, okay. And you're an attorney, okay?
I am.
What is your office?
We're on 352 North Spring Street, a block north of the courthouse in Tupelo.
Okay. 352 North Spring.
Right.
And do you work by yourself, Agnes, or you?
Yes, pretty much. Well, I have to support my habit, but pretty much federal court practice and constitutional law, First Amendment, anytime I can. Okay. Yeah. So.
You don't work with Jim, do you?
Jim Wade? No, I was reporting for Legal Newsline, which is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce web news-based thing that focuses on state attorney generals and Supreme Courts, and so I got to video him for that.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. But he gave the other day. He was walking by over to the jail to bond somebody out, and gave me a free pass to the Mudcats.
Oh yeah, he's really pushing that. He'll get all fired up about that.
Well, I gave it to my son, and he was pleased. I've got a 29-year-old that wants to go see the.
Well, you sound real young. I didn't think you'd have a child that old.
We have 5.
5 children?
Have 5. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Now, does your husband work for? I'm just trying to think. Did he work for the radio program or?
No, he's a dentist.
Oh, dentist.
He works for
okay.
Cool Smiles, which is a little children's dental clinic here, general dentistry for children in Tupelo.
Okay, all right. Well, I was thinking, I don't know, there was something you just said then that made me think that you might be working with the American Family Radio. I don't know why. There's attorneys that work for that, and I don't know them, and I've heard Grant talk about them.
No, I don't do. The only reporting I do is for Legal Newsline, and then I have a video program of my own called Tia This Is America, that has the Current Constitutional Applications Project, which is educational. It's for profit, but I started it when I was teaching junior college at Tyler, Texas. So anyway,
well,
all right.
Very interesting. Very interesting. How did y'all end up in Mississippi?
Well, I was going to Ole Miss Law School. And I was raised in Grenada from age 10.
Oh, okay.
My dad had a farm down there. And so I went to Ole Miss Law School, and then Eric was state's football captain. And that's how we met. I was the foreign language tutor at Mississippi State for the athletic department. And then we got married, and he was doing a residency for Charity Hospital in New Orleans, which is where the dental school for LSU is. And I was going to Ole Miss Law School, transferred to Tulane after we got married, and found out Mississippi had a 26% bar pass rate at that time, so I knew that, I wasn't going to pass the Mississippi bar, so we came back, and he worked for Don Newcomb, who started the McAllister's Deli chain.
Oh, you did? Cool.
Well, he did.
He did, okay.
Yeah, Don Newcomb is a dentist. I don't know if you know
Oh, okay, yeah, I don't know him, yeah.
Well, anyway, and then we bought his office in 1978, or 79.
Okay.
One of the others.
I've been here a while then, okay. I was just thinking it was more recent.
Well, I've only been practicing in Tupelo for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yes.
How old are you? The 29, your oldest, or?
Yeah, we have 4 boys that are close together. One of them's third year LSU law school.
Oh.
And then the other 2 are out of school. And then Ethan is my perennial student. And then we had a late in life 14-year-old. So it's been very traumatic. The whole sneaky, dirty, rotten deal has been very traumatic on our whole family.
Okay.
Yes.
Well.
At least a purchase option agreement. So
I have no idea.
you don't know if he knew that?
No, I do not.
Okie doke. Because way back in February of 2006, your wife said that she had talked to him a long time ago concerning our agreement.
Oh, well, I know that she's made every effort to let him know that y'all were trying to buy the house. It's went on for several years now. And we just, that I do know, yeah. She sent him the emails that you had sent her and everything. Yes, I do know that.
Okay.
But now, did he know that you had an option? I don't know. But again, let me go through any of these items that you'd like with Eric. I'll be happy to. But other than that, I'm not just going to go answering a lot of questions right at this time. I think things went way out of control in this area here.
Yeah, well, I agree. Why, Mike, did the day that you were out there on that Monday working on the pool, why didn't you tell me that you knew the house was about to be sold to your dad?
Did you not just hear me?
I did hear you, but I would still like an answer because, if you not only...
Did answer you, okay? That's all that I've got to say.
All righty.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Bye. That was Mike Pate, May 29th, 2008, confirming that he had spoken with Bobby Mooneyham, and the emails confirm what Bobby Mooneyham knew. So Mike Pate knew when he signed a lease to purchase option agreement with owner financing that he was doing so fraudulently. I think that he had about 3 outstanding, maybe 4 loans for the neighborhood of $200,000. Some of them secured by Bancorp South. Bancorp South loaned money to his, all of them were like 4 and 6 months notes. So he was sure when he signed that lease to purchase option agreement that he wasn't going to honor it. It was fraudulently intended from the beginning, but they thought that once we had that option, that he could force the purchaser to get third-party financing by threatening bankruptcy and sale to third parties and foreclosure, and but he knew the rights and obligations under the contract and that he could never do it. But what they did was for 3 years allowed the would-be purchaser to pay for that house while they loaded it with debt and lived on it until it was to $209,000 when they reached an agreement with the bank to assist him to defraud the purchasers by foreclosing it to a non bona fide purchaser for value, Mike Pate's father, while Mike Pate was living in his father's house, even though he owns another house. Mike Pate does, and of course Bobby Pate does too. Okay. This is Sasha Hoggett, May 15th, 2008. Sasha, would you please turn around so I can record your hair?
Thanks.
Yeah. We missed most of it. Can you? Here, look in the thing and you'll know. If you can see yourself, you're in it.
I can't see myself. I'm turned around.
Right, turn around. But stay, yeah.
Good?
No, keep going the other way. All the way around. Okay, thanks, Shay.